The night my wife took the kids and my CEO destroyed my life, I was still sitting in a hospital parking lot, pretending I would walk inside in one more minute. My forehead rested against the steering wheel. The leather was cold. My hands were shaking so badly I had to trap them between my knees. The engine clicked as it cooled, each sound marking another second I was wasting while my son waited inside. I could smell antiseptic on my clothes, old coffee in the cup holder, fear in my own breath. Here's the confession that changes how you see me. I wasn't sitting there because I didn't care. I was sitting there because if I went inside and looked at my son's face, I knew I would finally break, and I still needed to stay useful for someone else. That someone else was not my family. My name is Luke Carter. I was 35 years old, a single father of two, compliance director at Astria Industries, one of the most powerful energy corporations in the country. What I wanted was simple. Dinner at 6, homework at the kitchen table, Saturday mornings on cold bleachers, my daughter's piano recitals, my son's baseball games. What I feared losing was not my job or my house. It was my children's trust, and the secret I had never told anyone. 6 months earlier, I had buried a document that could destroy my company, and I did it to protect my family. Most adults carry the same fear I was carrying that night, the fear that one wrong decision will erase the future you're trying to build for your children and expose the part of you that was never strong enough to protect them. When Eleanor Blackwood first called me into her office after midnight, the city lights were spilling through the windows behind her like something burning. She didn't sit. She stood there holding a thin folder in one hand and a glass of something expensive in the other. "Luke," she said quietly, "I need someone who still believes in right and wrong." That should have been my warning. Inside the folder were environmental reports, offshore accounts, contracts that didn't belong to any public record, waste dumping, data manipulation, entire ecosystems treated like disposable mistakes. "If this ever becomes public," she said, "Astria collapses." "So we fix it," I said. She nodded. "You signed the compliance clearance." My throat went dry. "That document isn't clean." Her eyes softened. "If you don't sign it, you lose your job, your insurance, your children's stability." She stepped closer. "And I lose everything." I signed. That was the moment my life stopped being my own. My phone buzzed in the parking lot. Eleanor. I ignored it. It rang again. When I finally answered, her voice was calm. "Don't go inside yet. My son is in there. And if you walk in now," she said, "everything collapses." I stared at the hospital doors. That was the trap. She had tied my children's safety to her survival. Inside, my son's arm was in a sling. My daughter was asleep on a chair too small for her. Rachel stood when she saw me. "Where were you?" she asked. "I was working." Her eyes filled with something that didn't come back. That was the moment our marriage actually died. 2 days later, the investigation exploded. Subpoenas, news vans, my face on every screen. I was the compliance officer who signed the clearance, the man responsible. Eleanor called that night. "They're coming for you," she said, "but I'll protect you." She never said how. 3 weeks later, a junior analyst slipped a file onto my desk. The original data, unaltered, with Eleanor's private authorization attached. My hands started shaking. I finally understood. I wasn't protecting my family. I was protecting her, because she knew I had something to lose. That night, Rachel packed the kids. "I can't live inside this," she said. When the door closed, the sound in my life shut off with it. The man I had been began to die. Eleanor called again. "They're offering you immunity," she said, "but only if you stay quiet." "What happens if I don't?" I asked. A long pause. "Then I lose everything," she whispered. "And so do you." I looked at the 2 backpacks by the door, and I asked the question that erased my future. What if the truth is worth losing everything? Her voice cracked. "Luke, don't go." I stopped answering Eleanor's calls after that night. Not because I was brave, because I was tired of being owned. My apartment was already half empty. Rachel had taken the kids' clothes, their school bags. The photo from the beach where my son had sand in his hair and my daughter had laughed so hard she fell backward. She left the silence. I slept on the floor for 3 nights because the bed still smelled like our life. Here's something no father says out loud. When your family leaves, the house doesn't feel empty. It feels like it's watching you. Subpoenas arrived in thick envelopes. My work badge stopped opening the doors. My accounts were frozen pending review. And then Eleanor asked to meet. Private room in a downtown hotel. No assistants. No lawyers. She looked different. Smaller. Her hand shook when she lifted her water glass. "They're going to charge you," she said. "Not me." She slid a folder across the table. Inside was a confession. My name. My signature. Forged. "They'll believe you orchestrated everything," she said. I walk away clean. "Your kids keep their home." I felt something tear inside my chest. Every parent carries this contradiction. You want your children to be proud of you, but you are willing to become someone you hate if it keeps them safe. I told her I needed time. That night, Rachel texted, "Did you do this?" I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't answer. She took the silence as her answer. The next morning, my attorney called. "Luke, they're offering you immunity in exchange for testimony against Eleanor." I sat on the floor with my back against the wall and felt the man I used to be disappear. 2 days later, Eleanor held a press conference. She cried. She spoke of betrayal. She named me. My face was everywhere. Rachel called. "I don't know who you are anymore." And the worst part? I believed her. I lost my apartment, my credit, my career. I moved into a one-room sublet above a laundromat. At night, I listened to the machine spinning other people's lives while mine stayed still. Here's the fear nobody admits. That when everything is stripped away, the world will finally discover you were never that strong to begin with. I almost believed it, until the night Eleanor knocked on my door. No makeup, no guards, no mask. "I need you," she said. I looked at the man I had become, and I realized the old Luke was gone. The new one had nothing left to lose. Eleanor stood in the doorway of my apartment, like someone who had finally lost the ground beneath her. No security, no assistance, no billion-dollar armor. Just a woman who understood the storm she built was now aimed directly at her. "They're closing in," she said. "I need you to stop the testimony." The kettle on my stove began to scream. I let it scream. "You already destroyed me," I said. "What's left to bargain with?" She stepped inside. Her voice shook. "I protected you." I laughed quietly. "You used me." She flinched. That's when I told her everything. The immunity deal. The evidence. The analyst who refused to disappear. Her knees buckled and she sat on the edge of the bed. "If you do this, I lose everything." I nodded. So did I. The testimony lasted 6 hours. I spoke slowly. Every contract, every falsified report, every order she gave behind closed doors. When I stepped outside the courthouse, my life was finished, but so was hers. 3 weeks later, Eleanor Blackwood was arrested. Her company collapsed within days. The news called it the largest corporate fraud exposure in a decade. My name never appeared again, which was fine. Some victories are meant to be quiet. Rachel let me see the kids again. Not easily. Not often. My son didn't ask where I had been. My daughter didn't mention the piano recital I missed. They just sat beside me on the park bench and let me stay. That was the forgiveness I was given. I accepted it. Months later, I passed Eleanor in a courthouse hallway. No cameras. No power. Just a woman holding the full weight of her choices. She stopped. "Was it worth it?" she asked. I looked at my hands. "My life was erased by one decision," I said. "But I kept my dignity." She lowered her eyes. I walked past her. Now I live in a small place. I work a job no one would envy. I see my children on weekends. There is a scar in my life that will never heal. But I sleep at night, and sometimes that's the only victory left. If you listen to this full story till the end, you are family now. Comment your country's name below so we know where our story reached. And if this story touched your heart, write "Stay Strong" in the comments.